welcome back from the break. And I know that you've been thinking a bit about the performance, that the findings that were just presented by Mr. Marvin for the different institutions of, guild institutions in the higher institutions of learning. So this is now an opportunity for us to discuss together. I recognize that there are some people, youth, that are watching us even via Zoom. I know that you are, due to internet challenges. I remember last time we had an issue to do with internet, and now when we look at the issue to do with OTT, which is not there, VPN is a bit restricted. I don't think it will even be possible for you to comment live. But what I request you is that you can drop down your comments, on the comment section via Zoom or social media. There's somebody who is gonna jot them down and then forward to the panel. We will be responding to some of your comments. But now, before I even invite the panelists to give their take, we want you now to, we want to hear from you. And let me start right away with a couple of students here who are they want to respond to these particular findings. There is Kiyenga Deborah. Kiyenga Deborah is from the National Teachers College Mubende. She's she's going to highlight issues to do with female representation in our offices, which we saw was very poor.
My name is Deborah Helen. First of all, before I say anything, I want to appreciate AFLI for this opportunity they always give us as young people to express ourselves. I also want to appreciate AFLI still for their education they've always passed on us as young people on issues of leadership and how to be better leaders in our community. Today, I was asked to say something about why there is less representation for the ladies in bigger positions of influence, bigger positions of leadership. There's fewer ladies in representation. And personally, I think there are three basic reasons why this is happening this way. And number one would be the inferiority complex between, the inferiority complex within us, the ladies. You find that there's just a way we always feel like we're not supposed, but there's just a way it always feels that somehow we can't compete favorably. Somehow the men are kind of greater than us. Somehow the men are supposed to be there and we're supposed to be somewhere here. And I feel like that inferiority complex has come in the way of many great ladies who would have been so many great things, but because maybe there is little believing in themselves, they don't believe in themselves that much, or maybe that inferiority complex overpowers their urge to actually be in bigger positions of leadership. Because I feel like it's only in the mind, it's a mindset. There is really no physical barrier, not that much. There's really not that much of, any physical barrier that is keeping women away from being great, but from being great in these leadership positions, because of the cliche way of thinking in our community, where our society has always told us that we can't have, literally they've told us we can't have a female president, because every time a lady comes up, maybe we don't see that much support as it could have been, even though she's that eloquent and that's good, and you see that she's capable. We don't see that, like, the amount of support coming up as it should have been. So I think that is one of the reasons, or actually the basic reason why all this is the way it is, why we see that 22% vis-a-vis the 78% for the representation for ladies when we see when it comes to the scorecard for the universities. So I think those are the basic two reasons why. And my other reason I would think of would be that maybe because of the way the ladies are kind of set back, we're set back on ourselves, we could call it a bit sluggish or a bit slow we do not move at the pace of the gentlemen. Like, you see them very active in situations and you see them trying to come up. So even when it's time for them to maybe pick for a company to choose who would be CEO, you find the man is so active and stuff, and then at the end of the day, even when the lady has the more qualifications, or when she's maybe more capable, they will still choose the man because he's out there and trying his level best, vis-a-vis the women who are always seated back and in our comfort zones. And I think the best way this could be curbed maybe is keep preaching and never cease to preach. Keep preaching to the ladies that, you know what, you can be great, you can do better, we can do better than this, we can do better than half of average of the percentage in this competition. Because yes, there's ladies out there who actually can do this. So I think preaching and preaching and preaching and reminding the ladies that, you know what, you are great, you can be this. I think that is one of the best ways we can curb this. And then also preaching could also enlighten these people who are out there saying a lady can't come out and be great, a lady can't come out and be a president, a lady can't come out and be the guild speaker or something. Like, it will enlighten them, and maybe the cliche we have, the old kind of way of thinking that ladies can't be great, they can't be certain things. Maybe we'll get rid of it.
Thank you so much, dear Deborah Kienga. I know that I have issues to do with names, but thank you so much for those very wonderful and important points that she has already pointed about, you know, self-esteem, inferiority complex, and you know, then the recommendations that they need to sensitize, you know, more, preach more. She calls it preaching. I think that's the right word. And then mentorship, I believe, is one of the things that stood out for me. But before I invite Pearl, because I believe that being a minister, a female minister, she definitely has something to say about the poor, in addition to what she has already said. I want to say that, you know, what she said about ladies being sluggish, I think that it can't be something that we can generalize. Maybe the rest of the panelists can respond to later on, but it could be more to do with exposure and all that. But anyway, that is just something that we can add on later on. Yes, Pearl, could you please, is there anything else you want to add to what Ms. Kienga highlighted in terms of poor representation of females?
Okay, what I can add on that, most ladies out there think like leadership called, like, for one to be a leader, it's so expensive. So it all goes back, like, I think, to the funding of the ladies. They feel that for one to be, like, for example, in the guild office, you have to pay like a lot of money. I can give a live example of myself. I would have wished to be a guild president of Uganda Christian University. But you look at this sense of, like, you have to put in a lot of money for you to achieve that position. So you end up sitting back, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go for a position that I can actually do it, afford. So it goes back to the funding, and also the parents' support. As the ladies, you'd be like, for example, a parent will tell you, will you manage that? So if your parent says, like, you know what? Go for it. I know you can make it. And give an example of my mother when I was applying for a position of the MP of Journalism, Media and Communication. And I'm like, you know what, Mom, I'm going for this kind of position. She was like, you know what, you can make it, I trust you. So that motivation given to us, you believe that you can make it, and you find yourself like there.
Thank you so much. And I want to, we have another video, by the way. It was not possible, like I said, for, you know, fellow youth who are sharing their views to, you know, get back to us live via Zoom and all those for technical reasons. And so we have another video from another young person. He's called Wanyera Ronnie. He's from Uganda Technical College, Mbale. And yeah, so he wants to, he wants to comment on universities versus tertiary institutions, why the universities are performing better than tertiary institutions. Yes, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Wanyela Roni, a former guild speaker of UTC Elgon. Yeah, allow me to take my sincere appreciation to Africa Leadership Institute that has for a number of times engaged young people in different platforms, different engagements. This in one way or the other gives us hope, or is a flicker of hope that in one day we shall have a really better generation. Uganda being one of the youngest populations in the globe. Yeah, AFLI has for a number of times nurtured, mentored, resourceful and accountable leaders, which really gives us hope that we shall in one way or the other pull up our democratic system as Uganda by grooming up better young leaders. Yeah, my main focus today is on the recently launched Scorecard, where we are having the universities perform better than the tertiary institutions. In my own point of view, I'm thinking this is happening due to a number of issues. One being in the differences of way of operation of these communities. For example, look at the population in tertiary institutions. Most of these tertiary institutions have lower turn-ups in terms of population. Or you find an institution, for example, UTC Elgon, you'll find it with a very small population compared to a public university like Makerere University, where you're going to find really big numbers of the students. This now basically brings up the point of in terms of funding and resources for these institutions. So you find out that universities will have a really bigger budget due to the bigger numbers and bigger contributions from their subscribers, who are the students. Yeah, in one way or the other, such governments will always have the free will to operate freely in terms of activities, in terms of their committees, in terms of their projects. You'll find out that these have really the resources to facilitate most of these activities of the guild and projects, which is one of the main focus of this of Africa Leadership Institute in terms of assessment. So that has really tried to bring down the performance of tertiary institutions. Yeah, then the other thing being that such established institutions like Makerere University or UCU, you realize that such institutions really have a strong alumni system. They really have a strong link to other institutions, communal-based institutions that are established, associations that freely give the exposure of these governments. They give them the knowledge, they skill them, support them to really perform better. That has in one way or the other also helped these to perform better. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Wanyera Haroni from Uganda Technical College, Mbale. Such a very realistic critique, I can say. So I want to, unless there is someone within the panel wants to add something.
Yes, I think what I found about Uganda Technical College, Elgon, when they met as guild leaders with the administrations of all the technical colleges in Uganda, it came as a good comment that, how come you in Uganda Technical College, Elgon, are so different from the rest of us? You articulate the way you address issues and so forth. Then they say, no, we are under mentorship program of Africa Leadership Institute. And they walk them through. So they say, when will Africa Leadership Institute be in Mount Elgon Technical College again next time? So that we also send our guild governments. So I was invited to a joint session where Kichwamba College, Technical College sent people, Lira Technical, there are many other colleges in the country send their guild governments at the budget of those institutions. They managed to send their guild leaders for an awareness workshop we were holding in Mount Elgon Technical College. So meaning that there is something fundamentally different coming out of these guild leaders we are mentoring. And there is a demand by other guild leaders who are not under this pilot. So this is commendable for us. So thank you very much, Elgon Technical, for being such good ambassadors. So although you've given reasons why you think the universities perform better, but I think you performed better within the technical colleges. And so we were so proud, we're so happy that we're able to bring you a resource person from Kabale University to facilitate that joint technical colleges guild government. So I think that's something very commendable. Thank you.
Okay, maybe, okay.
I could add something small on the female representation. Paul talked about the funding. I think funding is not an issue because even women can have money. Even men can have money. But I think it's the nature of politics that is played in the institutions of learning. And there is need to
Is it aggressive? Is it gentle?
aggressive.
What is it, the nature?
It's aggressive in that
Risky? Is it violent? What is
the
it?
nature of campaigns, the nature of the campaign process,
Could be expensive.
it kind of sends the girls away. But one thing we can do is, even in the
They
national
abuse each other
constitution,
or what? Because
it's a
ladies
bit,
don't want to
it's a
be-
bit aggressive.
Okay.
So even in the national constitution, the Ugandan constitution, it talks about marginalized groups. And really the females are marginalized. We can think of incorporating gender sensitive clauses in the guild constitutions, so that where we have a guild president, the vice should be a female.
Female.
Where we have a guild president who's a female, the vice should be male, so that we have that balance. We come to the GRC. If the guild president is, if the speaker is male, the deputy should be female, so that we involve the females in leadership. We push them, because even at the national level, we have a woman MP
At least
seat.
30%.
Yes.
The constitution.
Yeah, we
At
have a
least.
woman MP. So we need to also empower them legally from policy level, so that they will participate. And the issue of universities and tertiary, I think that the tertiary institutions are getting there. In our first scorecard, NTC came first, the baseline. But I think they're getting there, and with empowerment, they'll get there to the level of the universities.
So perhaps, Pal, would you like to say something in terms of how, because you talked about funding, for instance, you know, the bigger the number, which means the more contributions in terms of guild fee, and also the operating systems, you know, for instance, there are more advanced systems in public institutions or bigger institutions like UCU compared to Uganda Technical College, Helgon. Is there something you want to say in terms of recommendations? Just one or two.
But I can do like recommendation. Maybe it could be like also put under policy, like for one to come up for maybe at a guild level basis, they would move off the funding of like, before one gets like an application form, you have to pay a particular kind of amount of money, or one to pull the crowd and what, one could speak out and without maybe using the funding and all that, using posters and involving a lot of money kind of. So I think if one just only spoke out and maybe set out the goals and what they would love to like achieve at the end of the day, without maybe involving them. Now, for example, actually the current government that has come on board that have used like the online voting, it was a little bit cheaper because they didn't involve the use of money and buying the forms and what. It was electronic. So like, if
So
they
would
keep
you
on
prefer
using
the
electronic bit
ICT?
of it.
Because I remember when I was in Makerere, for instance, for my undergraduate, of course, you know, like what he talked about, you know, it's a bit rigorous, a bit, you can term it in bracket as violent. But then there's money used, you need money, for instance, to run your campaign. But
Yes,
you
the
talk about ICT.
ICT coming up and like taking over the other part of it, using the paperwork and all that. And maybe the university just funding only the electoral commission people to do that.
Oh, that is great. So I want us to hear again from one of the young people who recorded a video, still in response to the key findings. Is yeah, these are two people. It's Mr. Melinda Samwell is a former guild president of UCU. So awesome. I believe you were part of the guild together with him. And then there is Eriyanandahura. Pardon me for the naming. So he was also the guild leader in Mbarara University Science and Technology. So they recorded a video together responding to why, you know, partisan institutions versus non-partisan, why there was a disparity in terms of performance, us seeing those institutions that were non-partisan performing better than those institutions that were partisan. So let's hear from them.
Hello everyone, my name is Melinda Samwell, a former guild leader at Uganda Christian University. And I do believe leaders at private universities are performing quite well in leadership than the leaders in public universities. I basically have 3 points as into why I'm saying that statement. The first one is political parties. In Uganda Christian University, political parties are not allowed, and this has helped most students come up as leaders with their own ideologies, with their own challenges that they are facing. And this helps to create a very strong bond between the leaders and the students, which is not happening in public universities. Because most public universities have political parties, and most of these political parties have their own agenda. So whoever comes in to represent or to stand on their cards, they must first fulfill the requirements of their agenda, which really affects the relationship between the leader and the students. The second point is mentorship. In Uganda Christian University, there is a mentorship program whereby every guild leader is assigned a mentor from the top administration. This has enabled student leaders come up with good ideologies, good policies that really favor the students.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Eriyanandahura, and I'm a student leader at Kampala University of Science and Technology. Well, thank you for the wonderful topic, a controversial one of those you must discuss, especially with the current trend of student leaders. Well, guild president's performance vis-a-vis the national parties they subscribe to are one of the things we must explore. Well, to me, I find no association between the performance of guild president in comparison to the national political parties they subscribe to. Well, a disclaimer here is that it is important currently for a guild president to subscribe to a party because it will affect their performance when it comes to winning the seat. I will tell you, there are political parties that now give you a competitive advantage over your opponents. But when it comes to service for students, I tell you, I find no association. Look at Kampala University for its case, look at the FDC's Mr. Katongole Mike, and then People Powers, Mr. Homoza Omar. The two have served in different governments, but totally the performance is the same, totally to their own expectations. Yet there is no sag of any government, for example, interfering in our systems here. So look at the Makerere University's Honorable Papa Wele, and then People Powers Honorable Julius Katerega. The two totally have no difference. You remember Honorable Papa Wele, his concerns when he was being sworn in, but later he almost got killed by an angry mob of students for not deliberating on their behalf, what they termed as sending them somewhere. Look at Chambogo's FDC's Honorable Amanya German, and then People Powers Mr. Jonathan Tundru. The two have also served under different ideologies, but service delivery absolutely poor in a university. So to me, I find this one as a lame excuse. These people are influenced by other factors, to me, which I can call your power to consult your electorates, and then your honorable GRCs in the house, your power to press on the university administration, and how well you interact with the university council. If that is not improved for any candidate, then expect less of their performance. Otherwise, to always be a trend associated with the party, yes, to win the election if you have a famous party, but then when it comes to service delivery for the university students, to always be back to you, who you are, when it comes to your natural instincts of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Melinda Samwell and Elikana. I thought that this was a lady's name, but I can see he's a gentleman. Thank you for all those elaborate and very realistic and lived experiences from, the universities, right? And also observed experiences, I believe. So I want to request Honorable David to respond to some of the issues that were raised, especially in terms of party influence, for instance, because this resonates with also the top, the parliamentary performance, where we see some MPs, perhaps, they highlighted that perhaps they are you know, they are a bit restricted by the party to maybe say certain things?
I think when you look at the general responsibilities or duties of guild governments in general, you find that they are supposed to abide by democratic principles. They empower, they encourage active participation of student electorates at all levels of on issues of their own governance. So if, for example, carrying out public consultations from students electorate before any decisions or bills are passed on by their GRCs, to avoid cases of imposing arbitrary laws or policies onto students. So when student leaders go to the council, the university council or the senate or the faculty boards and so forth, do they consult the student body? And when the decisions are taken, do they bring back those so that the students can understand why that is? So in a democratic, in a guild government that's run democratically, you'll find things easy, like the last presenter made it. But there are bad examples, like the one you talked about, Makerere University, during the government of the so-called Papawere presidency, without enough consultations. Students are taken by the administration to Nairobi, benchmarking and so forth. They come back with smartphones and so forth, and where the leadership of the university guild is pocketed by the administration, is bought, is given goodies, okay? And then you find the committee, instead of presenting to the guild, the GRC, their report, they went ahead and accepted 15% cumulative tuition increase without getting back to the GRC to own, without going back to the General Assembly, calling the entire student body to discuss this matter. They went ahead and signed off, not for 1 year, but for a number of years, cumulative, committing even the future administrations of the guild. So that's the one which created the problem, a strike the following year. So when you have a corrupt, unconsultative, undemocratic, you know, it's a bit, it's sad to see that the student leaders are being co-opted to become part of corruption in these institutions, to turn the wheel in the direction that those who are manning the institution want it to turn. So it generates problems. And imagine this about taxpayers' money. This is about parents' tuitions. This is about, so parents must start to be concerned how these guild governments are being performed. And I think the universities should start also to make available the audit data, because if the what's it called, Auditor General has audited the public institution, there must be an audit report. And if there are issues of audit in the guild, for example, and the director of student affairs who's supervising over these, the accountants, which is seconded by the university to this. So these are issues, but we are not pushing for now, but we hope the next generation of students' guild scorecards will start to address some of those issues. So again, the second principle, to uphold and protect constitutionalism. Then the third one is promote good governance of transparency, accountability. These are the general duties. So the duty of stewardship between the administration and the student body, the duty of intermediary, the duty to promote observance of all policies, regulations, norms at campus life. So these are some of the duties of a guild government. What are their responsibilities to students? To be the students' voice, to represent them effectively in those other organs of the administration, to promote development, good governance principles, democracy, accountability in liaison with university administration and student bodies. To be knowledgeable, they are expected to be knowledgeable, to be skilled, to be able to provide good leadership. You know, to be effective student advocates on financial matters, on academic matters, on welfare issues. They're supposed to encourage student leadership participation in campus life and so forth. So these are the general duties that the students' guilds play. So in our mentorship, we try to address all these, and we are trying to get some former leaders who are in the guild who have now excelled internationally, nationally, regionally, and want to attach them to particular guild governments as mentors, so that when you're meeting the GRC, it will be good for them to sit and watch and then give a report, a feedback where areas you need to improve, and so forth. When you're meeting in cabinet, just to invite them once in a while. And so this is the kind of mentorship we want to provide. And then we like the university and government, university and tertiary institute administration, we thank you for allowing us to provide objective and scientific and independent assessment of your universities, guild governments, and we thank you for your cooperation, that you've been able to cooperate with us. And I think it is important that all of us have a stake, because these leaders, when they come to national level, you live to regret or you live to celebrate. So it is to our best interest that actually while they are still in those leadership positions, that they're exposed and equipped and given the tools and the right attitudes to serve in these positions.
Okay, thank you so much for that emphasis. And I want to, first of all, before I give the rest of the panelists time to respond to some of what has already been shared, I want to say that I want to recognize the presence of participants from these universities. They are participating via Zoom, others are sharing their comments, others are listening as groups from wherever they are. Makerere University, thank you so much. Makerere University Business School, they are also listening and they are tuned. Mbarara, I'm sure it's Mbarara University of Science and Technology. Then there is UCU and Chambogo University, Kampala International University, Law Development Center, Kabale University. Thank you so much. You can see that there's a lot of interest from varied universities, which I believe it's you as AFLI, you need to take it up and mobilize more, and call out on the public, private institutions to support this initiative, because we are nurturing leaders that will take on the national positions. Yes, I want to give. Yes, there is a comment before I give you, Marvin. There is a comment from Felix Kijoki, and he's also participating via Zoom from these universities. He says that I think females have much solidarity compared to males. I believe this is in relation to the poor performance of poor representation. Then he said that we have seen them coming up for higher offices. Only that when one comes up, no other woman competes like how it happens with men. I believe perhaps the person meant maybe supports or something compared to how it happens with men. Thank you so much, Felix, for your very observation. I want to now roll it up to you, Marvin and Pal. You have.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll just give a comment on the partisan and non-partisan politics. I think we need to interrogate the legality of political parties participating in guild elections.
Okay.
Because guild governments are set up by the University and Tertiary Institutions Act, whereas political parties are set up by the Political Parties Act. These are two different laws setting up two different institutions. So I still don't understand, even when you look at the constitutions of these institutions of learning, there's nowhere they address the issue of political parties. So I still don't understand how national political parties come and participate in the guild elections.
Perhaps it could be by association.
No, but it's a fundamental right of freedom of association.
Okay.
Before they become students, they are citizens of Uganda, and therefore they are governed by the national constitution. So if the national constitution gives you power, the right to associate, there's also a right not to associate. But for an institution to impose, to take away your other rights of association is also not constitutional. But how should they conduct? You can come with the regulations. Yeah.
Maybe if I can add on that, the freedom of association is okay. Anyone can belong to a political party. But what I'm talking about here is the participation of guild elections based on national political parties. Because political parties have a law that governs them. Even their interest and all, they're kept by the Electoral Commission. So when you come to a guild government, there's also a constitution governing the guild government. So the association of guild leaders with national political parties needs to be interrogated.
need to be regulated so that its excesses or its interference can
Yeah,
be
minimized.
but to abolish it completely,
No,
you'll be
maybe
running against the constitution.
I'm not talking about abolition. We can look at the best practices.
But I believe that this political party is even fun. Let's say, for instance, I was in Makerere
They do
and
fund.
I think
I
my
heard that they
point,
fund students who run under their ticket.
I think my point is not coming out clearly. This is not about association. It's about how the guild elections are run.
Okay.
You understand? If you're to run on a national resistance movement under the guild election, then it is the Independent Electoral Commission to preside over that election. So if you're having partisan politics within the guild election, then there are disparity in the policies. So there is need for government or institutions of learning to regulate how this should be done, or to come up with another framework to regulate the participation of political parties with the parties. If you look at this, I'll give an example. If you look at in the past 3 years, all the guild governments that have had impeachment sessions held against guild governments, or sort of disconnections between the GRC and they're all partisan. Then the non-partisan, there has been a smooth running. There's a reason as to why, and we need to interrogate this. So I personally think the best practice would be to go non-partisan. That's what I think the best practice is.
Keep with your
Or
party.
to regulate.
But because that's individual merit, and that's the movement system. So the constitution says when the movement system is in place, okay, that individual merit. But when political party system is in place, then the other one is in abeyance. But anyway, these are issues we need to interrogate as we move forward without violating the national constitution. Is it possible to regulate? Yes. To subject them to the rules and regulations of the institution? Yes. But it should be done in such a way as not to upset the national constitution order, because otherwise they will become litigation issues.
I actually want to
before
cut you guys short,
just
because
shortly.
I believe these are conversations we can have until cows come back home.
Just one recommendation.
And when they're Karimojong in
I also-
town, the
I also
cows
think-
will
Yes.
come home. They'll be
Maybe
ready.
to recommend on that, maybe the universities themselves can have political associations, because there are already associations with what? With government, within the institution
You
of
mean the
learning.
institution?
I mean like political associations within the institution of learning, that then you say that you're coming on this association to run for guild president. There's already an association within the institution of
Are they
learning.
political parties?
I mean that there are already associations.
Or cultural sessions?
The different
It
types
could
of
still be
associations,
political
but we could
parties,
also
but-
come up with political, because there are chapters. So we could have associations within.
Because we are training them so that when they come to the national stage, they should be able to function.
Yes, they could function fine, but you can stay with your political kind of, maybe I can say maybe I'm for movement, let it be inner, the inner me. But outside, just come and I be neutral, like just be neutral.
Okay.
I think that this all debate
I hear you.
about
Now, let me then say one or three things. One is that this is now about succession planning and transitional process, which we score. Is there a voters register? We score. Was the voter register updated? Yes or no? We score. Did the general elections take place? Yes. In the right time. And then were the campaigns free and fair? Yes. The excess of open campaigns. And then election complaints, were there election complaints? We score. Was there a violence? Yes. How were these disposed? Okay, and so forth. These are things we score the entire electoral process. And therefore, was results declared and so forth. So the electoral commission, the existence of these, we score. And we try to the institution scores higher on matters like this, and we really encourage harmony, and we encourage consensus. We encourage, but certainly there is need to work more in this area, and then you have the core governance score. So just to let people know that yes, these are matters which we observe. Some of the guild governments have been able to invite AFLI as observers during their election process. And we are able then to advise on how we move on this. So our advice then again to national political parties is that please, your interference on purely student matters, your hijacking or capture of student leaders is totally not acceptable. And for you student leaders, you need to know where the boundary of your political party stops,
yes.
and where your leadership of students' well-being starts. You are still in university, issues of academics are there. Don't behave like you're already out of school. Issues of well-being is there. Issues of financing is there. Please do not allow external influence to derail you from performing your functions
Kindly
to the
wrap up,
best.
Honorable Deb.
Yeah, to the best of your or the expectation of your
Yes.
electorate.
Okay, I want to give an opportunity to Pearl to, you want to make your last remarks because we are winding up the show.
Okay, thank you. I'd really like to appreciate AFLI for this opportunity given to me to come and share with you. It's really been great, and I've learned a lot from Honorable before here, and also Marvin and Martha. Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone who has been there during the Guild term of office.
So what is your final remark to the the Guild leaders? Perhaps those who are now, taking up leadership positions.
Leaders, for example.
Yes, yes.
Okay, the current leaders out there.
What advice?
Okay, I would advise you to stick to your activities. Like, for example, if you're meant to carry out like the Guild official activities, please do it. Don't go outside there, and then maybe you're influenced by other political, maybe, for example, you're talking about the private and the public universities. Maybe the public universities being influenced by the politics out there, and you get out of hand of the university policies, and it affects you at the end of that day. So please, let's stick to it.
Thank you. And Marvin, just within a short time, can you?
Mine, I would just like to thank all the Guild leaders that are part of the mentorship, that have given us information and data, and ask them to continue collaborating with us.
Okay, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful panel. I know that Honorable David has a lot to say, but we want to cut him short. And I want to thank you so much, our dear viewers, and all the students, youth who are listening and watching us from every part of the country. Thank you so much. And we continue to encourage you to listen to your intuition, because your intuition never betrays you at the end of the day. Even if you are under a party, it doesn't mean that the party should make you, at the end of the day, lose your senses. I think that we can also represent parties well. We can also give a different face of the political parties that we represent, and say no where it's supposed to be a no, and say yes where it's supposed to be a yes, and ensure that there is service delivery. We are serving, because even these parties exist to serve the general public that they represent. And so wherever you are, we look forward to having you again. The next time we'll hold this particular program again. So continue the discussions online via Zoom. You can also visit our social media pages, our Twitter handle, our Facebook. Continue bringing the comments on, because I believe some of the issues that you're raising, some of the points that you're emphasizing can inform, the entire process. Like Marvin said, it's an adaptive, the Scorecard is taking an adaptive approach. It keeps evolving after every other day. And so until next time, I remain your host, Martha Angela Martina. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Big stars, yeah.